Money panic doesn't always come from not having enough. Sometimes it comes from suddenly having more than you ever expected. $8 million more, to be exact. This week's listener spent 40 years farming, always in debt, just getting by, but now they've sold the farm and the numbers are seriously changing. Now, you might think an $8 million windfall is a nice problem to have. And I hear you on that, but it's still a genuine problem because big, sudden amounts of money are notorious for actually ruining financial lives and leaving you worse off than you started. There is a sense of overwhelming pressure, often a fear of messing things up, and frankly, a very real danger that you do mess it up. So welcome to Ask the Experts, where each week people from inside the money world answer your questions to get the answers you need right now. Making Sense is proudly supported by Heartland Bank, a New Zealand bank here to help you make the most of your money. Back in the hot seat, Will White from Heartland Bank. Welcome. Are you ready for the letter?
Sure am.
Perfect. Hi, Francis. I need help. I'm going to have a lot of money and we've never had money before. Context, we are dairy farmers and we've sold the farm. After 40 years of living with debt, and a huge debt at that, we are suddenly going to have money. We don't know how to manage money. We have only ever managed debt. It's easy to manage money when it's not yours. Now I'm terrified of losing or wasting our money. When the sale goes through at the end of May, we will own a home worth $1.6 million, an investment property rented to our daughter worth $700,000, and a commercial shed worth $500,000 for hubby's hobbies, $1 million of Fonterra shares, and $8 million cash. What do we do with it? Where do we start? Now, look, those numbers are incredible. Wow, what a problem to have. But I've heard similar stories to this actually before from people in rural parts of the country that they have spent so much of their life in this really asset-rich situation, but the day-to-day, you're not swimming in cash. Then it comes time to retire. You cash out on the asset and you're suddenly left with this entirely different situation you've had no training for. You're just thrown into the deep end. Overwhelming, I think. Do you think?
I think it would be very overwhelming to have 40 years where, farming is bloody tough. Anyone that can do that for that length of time, well done them for now getting the reward. Also quite an interesting asset mix there too. There's lots of things to consider. There's property, there's shares, there's cash. So, where do you even start would be probably what they're thinking right now. You can't make any decisions on your own and you need time. So you've gone this long making ends meet. Taking a few months to really consider what you want to do rather than rushing into anything would be my first piece of advice.
That is exactly it. And I've heard this. I've even bumped into financial advisors who specialize in the sort of sudden money area, which sounds like an interesting specialty because we often tend to think of lottery wins or something. How many of those are there? But inheritances are another one that can really throw people for a loop, or things like this. You cash out a farm, but maybe a business. You go to retire and you sell the business for a lot of people. So actually, it's surprisingly common hitting this sort of sudden money scenario, and it triggers funny wiring in our brains that can make us panic, can make us do things in quite knee-jerk ways. And I think exactly what you've said there, that actually one of the biggest things can be take a beat, right? You don't have to make a decision straight away.
Absolutely. How many lottery winners across the world do we hear about that 5 years after the win, they're back working their job before they had the win? Because
over 50% apparently.
Yeah, there's no one around to help them. They've never lived in that ecosystem, so they don't know where to go in order to get help to manage their money. Mm-hmm. They're probably quite frivolous, and why wouldn't you be? You've just come into all this cash, absolutely go and buy some toys. But if you quit your job and I'm never working again, and you've won a few $1 million, that's probably not going to sustain you until retirement, and that's where this advice is needed. A bit different for our letter writer today. They've obviously worked very hard. By the nature of working for 40 years, they're in retirement or close to. but they'll have considerations around how do they want to support their family. We know that, their daughter's currently living in one of the investment properties. Might they like to gift that to her? These are all the things that'll be, kind of rushing through their head at the moment. I would just go, what is it you actually want to achieve? Are you happy having shares? Are the shares now, as a result of your sale, some of it in cash, some of it in shares? Do you not know how to manage the shares? These are all things that we're going to need to figure out, and you'll need expert advice to help you do that. And the position this letter writer is in, they can afford the advice. And my view would be absolutely pay for it, because it'll pay dividends for you whilst you work out what to do with the money.
Yeah, exactly. A few $1,000s, maybe, potentially less, depending on who you go for, but a few $1,000s on a financial advisor versus $8 million plus all the rest that's on the line. I think that's a pretty cheap deal, to be honest.
I'm going to look straight down the camera and go, it's a rounding error for you now. Just pay it, right? That will pay itself back 10 times. Just the cash. So let's focus on the cash for a minute. First of all, if it's currently sitting in the checking account, which I hope it's not, put it into some kind of high yield term deposit. You can put it on, a short term, a few months. Buy yourself some time to start investigating who it is you actually want to have help you. Let the shares do their thing. Don't even contemplate selling them or trying to move them, or just let them sit there. You want to go buy a couple of toys? Fine, go ahead and do that. No issue. If you want to help some family members, again, no problem. You don't have to wait for that. Go ahead and enjoy the spoils of what you've just earned. But for those big life-changing decisions around, are they staying on the farm? Are they moving off the farm? Do they plan to buy more property? Do they want to extend, the hubby's hobby shed? All of those decisions should only be made in unison once you've got some advice. If you make decisions on your own without that expertise, you are likely to make poor decisions, and the self-fulfilling prophecy of how you're feeling right now about how this could go is likely to be how it goes. So get the advice.
Yeah. And I love as well what you've been saying there about, first take a beat. Yes, great. And then secondly, thinking about your life priorities and what makes you feel good with your money. What makes you feel good in your life? Are you wanting to stay in that same area? Do you have community there? Do you like the people there? I mean, you've got your big old hobby shed that I'm sure you're wanting to stay close to by the sounds of things, the daughter around, So are you wanting to stay there? Okay, how does that work in with your money? Do you feel comfortable with the shares? Do you enjoy having an investment property? Some people, whether or not it's the daughter living in it, hate investment property because it's too hands-on. And I think all of these life things, how is it feeling? How is your money making you feel? How is your life making you feel? That's actually a really underrated aspect of this. It's not just working out the numbers, right? It's how do you feel? How do you want to feel? Working backwards from there and taking all of that to a financial advisor so you can sit down in front of them and very clearly say, here is my situation. Now, how do I get from A to B to C?
Yeah, they are now millionaires. So let's just call it for what it is. They are a very, very lucky family, but they've worked incredibly hard to get themselves into the position they now find themselves in. The problem with unexpected wealth is people come out of the woodwork.
Yes.
So the other thing I would say is they'll have lots of people, family members and people they've known for decades, as well as people that they don't have a relationship with that will suddenly make contact. There will be business ideas, there'll be investments, there'll be family members asking for money so they can pay their mortgage off. You may decide that you want to do all of those things, as is your right with the money that you've just got. But get advice first. There'll be so many unintended consequences of you starting to invest in things, gift money, and then all of a sudden you're going to find yourself with lots of liabilities as a result of decisions maybe that you've made individually over a period of time. And by the time you get to that financial advisor, they're going to go, what did you do that for? You could have done exactly what you wanted, but there was a much better way to package all of this up. So not only does it work for the person you're trying to help, but it works for you as well. And just be really aware of scams, whether you're a millionaire or not. Scam awareness is not as well understood in New Zealand as it should be for the amount of scams that are out there. If it feels like it's too good to be true, it is. And always stop, reflect, go and do your own investigating, and make sure you get the appropriate advice.
Yeah, 100%. On that as well, I do have a previous episode on finding a financial advisor. So for starters, go back through the archives and check that out. But the other one as well is that they should always be registered with the Financial Markets Authority. That's really important because it also means that you have avenues. If something does go wrong, it means A, something is less likely to go wrong because they are qualified and registered. But if something does go wrong, you also have places to turn. There are ways to get it sorted. So that's really important. Making Sense is proudly supported by Heartland Bank. If you're looking for specialist banking products, this is their area. They're a New Zealand bank which offers savings and deposit accounts, reverse mortgages, car loans, and rural lending. They're also the bank chosen by 26,600 Kiwi to unlock the value in their homes through a reverse mortgage, so they can stay in the place they love and enjoy a little more freedom in retirement. Heartland Bank's lending criteria, fees, and charges apply. When we're looking at something like this, you're getting a big lump sum. And that's great, but you kind of hinted at it before, is when you're trying to make this last, hopefully, a few decades of nice retirement, hopefully you have your health and enjoy it, you've earned it, and you're trying to turn that lump sum into a strategy through that time. And the millions may not last as long as you'd think if you don't have that sort of strategy. Is there a sort of go-to strategy on that, or is that going to be, again, a horses for courses?
I think it does depend on what you want to achieve. I mean, we have at Heartland, we have rural and livestock managers, and they see this fairly frequently. You have people that have worked for a very long time, they've made ends meet, they've been commercially successful, and then they either get a knock on the door with an offer that they weren't expecting, or they've made a decision to go, actually, it's time to retire and I want to sell. And if I got 10 of those customers in this room today, all 10 stories will be completely different around what they chose to do, how they went ahead and executed their plans into retirement. Did they still want to work? Did they want to retire straight away? These are all the things that are going to mean it's different for everybody. One thing I would say is you can't beat cash. So make sure that you have cash available. It allows you to do the things that you want to do. Put it into high interest term deposit. Let it sit there for a bit whilst you figure out what you want to do. And then as you start getting more advice, you can then start going, okay, I want more shares. I want more property. Just deal with the immediate problem. So you've got the time and the bandwidth to actually sit back with the family and go, okay, collectively, what do we want to achieve?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think something else that comes through this is, they talk about the fear of messing it up. They've been dealing with things in terms of debt until now. And that changed how they felt about the money because it didn't feel like their money. It didn't feel like the responsibility was on them. Now it very clearly is their money. Now it is cash. And even though you might be handling similar sums, the mindset is obviously totally different. The pressure they're feeling is totally different. Do you have any tips, tricks, thoughts in terms of dealing with that pressure?
Have a large scotch, I think. You've worked incredibly hard for that money. It's your money. You earned it. Mm-hmm. So whatever you choose to do with it moving forward is your call, but you can enjoy it. 40 years of working incredibly hard. Don't feel like you now need to live today as if you did yesterday because your reality has just changed. Your family's reality has just changed. So, make smart decisions. You've got, $8 million, another million in shares and, a couple more in property. You are set up very nicely for not only yourself, but for your family as well. You can afford to go and enjoy yourself, but you're not multimillionaires. So therefore you shouldn't be making multimillionaire decisions. You now have the ability to have an incredibly comfortable retirement and, what a privileged position to be in. Just make sure you get the people around you, not just financial advisors, but accountants as well, people that can really help facilitate you living the life that you want, but also still having money left, as you get into your twilight years. And then you can determine, do you want to make gifts to family? Do you want to make gifts to charity? What a great position to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you say, you can have some fun. You can have some toys. The toys probably won't be a private jet, but it's still going pretty good.
Yeah, like I'm happy to provide my details if they want to send me a check. I'm all for it. Your life has significantly changed. Enjoy it a bit. Just take a beat on those larger decisions that you need help with, and take a beat when you have people coming to you asking for either investments or gifts, particularly with family. If you say yes to somebody and then no to somebody else, it will cause family conflict. And a lot of the time when someone in a family comes into money, very quickly relationships erode because there's this feeling of entitlement in the family that they should be helped. And again, by having independent people that manage all of your money for you, and the requests go to those independent people to which you pay a fee for service, you're removing yourself from those difficult conversations. It's entirely up to you to who you want to help versus who you don't want to help. But remove yourself from those conversations being had directly with you.
Pay someone else to be bad cop.
Absolutely.
That sounds actually like a very good use of money.
Yep. And you can afford it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Will White from Heartland Bank. Now, if you have more questions that you would like to send our way, problems big or small with your money, send them through. It's ask@franciscook.co.nz. I'll make sure that's on the screen for you. It's also in the podcast description, so you don't even have to worry about spelling it or anything like that. Until next time, have a great day. Just a note before you go. This podcast can only give you general information about how things work in most cases. It's not individual financial advice. We're all different, so some of this might not apply to your specific situation. Take what works for you, ignore the rest. If you're after individual financial advice, a financial advisor is always the best bet.